So it's building the fuselage right now for the drone. I'm gonna pause this, we'll get to it. Booyah! Oh no! Could you be loved? Doing the fuselage. Line 2 of 230 lines of code should take 3 hours and 28 minutes. You can influence that a lot. We're using PLA instead of ABS. There's also different Kevlar fibers you can use, but that's what we're rolling with right now. You don't want to see that. So this has to do with your fill pattern also. And I was having some issues with it because sometimes you'll have adhesion issues. Like right now, do you see that? I have to deal with it. I was using a glue and it wasn't working very well. So I'm going to have to turn up the surface plate temperature because right now I have it set at 60 degrees. So I'm going to have to go back into the line of code, or I can go into the machine and I can change that and we'll start this over. Disco Inferno, yeah. So we're making the drone fuselage and propellers. And so anyways, I clipped a couple notes. My wife told me yesterday, you know, I had a bunch of stuff. When I try to verbalize it, it takes too long. So I just posted it in there. Baby, burn, burn that mother down. Burn, baby, burn. Disco Inferno, burn, baby, burn. What you need? Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, was a chain reaction. Ow. Woo! Couldn't get enough. People think I'm crazy, man, but I'm not. Life's just too short. I'm almost 60, dude. And I got some stuff. I got some garbage from some trolls the other night about this. About Java, about how to pull video files out of a web page. It's not hard. You just have to go into the developer tools, rip the video file out of it. Let me turn this off. It does work from here on the other side of the wall. Imagine that. So what's up, everybody? My wife left a message in the front. And, you know, right now I'm having some adhesion issues with filament up here, like I was telling you about, because of condensation. When you got water in your filament, it leads to different problems. Line breakage or filament breakage, whatever. And I hope people get enjoyment out of my videos. You know, I enjoy doing them. I learn a lot about myself, you know. When I first started doing videos in January earlier this year, I used to cuss a lot, cuss like a sailor. And I think that that's a lazy mind trying to sound forceful. And, you know, sometimes the truths about ourselves are not always something that are apparent or something that we like when they become apparent. So, you know, I have to take the good with the bad. But I was watching Ian Bick the other day, and Ian was talking about he was working a 9-to-5 job, and Ian got sent to the federal pen for scamming some people out of some money and whatnot. And then the printer's getting ready to go. Yes, it is. And he was working a day job, and he just got tired of working it, and decided that he was going to start a TikTok channel. And I have a TikTok account. I've got the download of it, even though it was made illegal. I got the download when they made it illegal, and now it might be illegal again. I don't know. I don't really do anything on TikTok. But I was trying to think about, even if everything that my wife said in those messages is true, and it is, and even if the entire world knew my story, which they will, not that I'm some big guy, but I'm putting it out there and it's available for anyone that wants to pay attention to it. How will I keep my channel relevant and entertaining to you guys? And what do I want to do with my channel? You know, getting lit up by those trolls the other night over something as stupid as Java code and stuff like that, and how to extract a video file from a web page, which is not hard unless it's a YouTube page, and it's a little bit more harder. They make it harder to get to. Still, the point is showing people how to do stuff. I'm a high school dropout. I'm also a college graduate. When I got my GED, I got it in the Hall of Justice in LA. And you know, a lot of people like me just get rid off. You're too dumb. You're going to go work a manual job until the end of time. And you know what? If that's you, or if you're on the other end of the spectrum, you did everything right. You made it all the way to the FBI, like Anthony Hopkins says to Clarence, you made it all the way to the FBI. You know, even if you did that, I have people that are federal agents that send me emails and stuff, because technically, you know, I was authorized to work throughout the entire Republic of Mexico doing the same job, same skill set. And even if you're a federal agent and you're sitting there watching this, I want you too to know that, you know, there's something more for you after you get done doing. You're going to take a 20-year retirement, man, maybe 25, 30, whatever it is. But you're going to start looking for things to do after your general retires, as mine did, or after you get out of service, and you're going to wonder, what should I do with my time? And so, you know, YouTube is not something, I'm not really an extrovert. I'm more of an introvert. I read a lot. I learn how, I buy, this printer behind me is worth like $1,000. I dedicate my time on how to build things. I'm into engineering. Metallurgy and plastics for engineers. I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm into. Math. Math is a big one. Math is one of the most important. Math is probably the most important language in the universe. And it behooves you to be able to speak this language. It's an important language. I want to find a way to help people the way that I've been helped. I want to find a way You know, you got both parties destroying this country purposely, and they acting in concert one with the other. They act like they're different, but they're not. There's one bird, two wings. And at the end of the day, we're all humans and we have to live with each other. And the best way to better the world. There was a story at one time I read of the difference between heaven and hell. And you got a whole bunch of people sitting at a table with big bowls of stew. But the problem is that their spoons are like 3 feet long. They're just long enough to get across the table to the other person. And in hell, everyone's sitting there trying to eat their own bowl of stew with their 3-foot spoon, and of course they're getting it everywhere, and their hands are tied. They can't get it. They have to hold. Oh, their hands couldn't have been tied. Yeah, it's a 3-foot spoon, and they're not. Their hands aren't tied, and they're trying to feed themselves with their 3-foot spoon, and they can't get it. They're spilling it everywhere. And so, in heaven, it's the same thing. It's a whole bunch of people with a never-ending bowl of stew. Except in heaven, instead of the people trying to feed themselves, they're trying to feed each other, and everyone's eating and they're full and they're happy. And service is really where it's at. My brother's got like probably $1 million business. I don't know. We don't talk a lot. We talk some. But my brother's helped tons and tons and tons of people, you know, and I've lived kind of an introvert lifestyle because of the way my early childhood was being given away. So I want to help people. Right now I'm building some drones. Why are you building drones, Dave? Because drones have weight classifications per the FCC. I mean the Federal Aviation Authority, rather, not the FCC. That's the FCC are these radios right here and other radios, which also, that's a ham license, which I've also passed. So you can go past these things and do all these things, and there are a lot of hurdles for people that have felonies and stuff like that. Talk to a lawyer, see if you got a California wobbler or a wobbler in whatever particular state you're in. See if you can get it dropped down to a misdemeanor, and then at that point expunged. Violent felonies, you have to wait 7 years before you can get that done. So if you get in an altercation driving down the street someday and beat someone down in a road rage incident, if it's something that the prosecutor could have charged as a misdemeanor, then it's considered a wobbler. I want to help people live better lives, because the better life everyone has, the better our total social existence and our social cohesion is. And this is important. We should care about it. Most of my time in my life I have been politically apathetic because I'm just so much of a recluse that I don't want to involve myself in anything. And now I watch all this stuff going on. And I need to involve myself at some level, even if it's paying attention and putting an opinion out there. When Mark Gagnon came to my house, I love his whole crew, but one of the things that they said is they didn't want me to get into my beef with Ed Calderon. And I do have beef with Ed Calderon. But I can't make my entire channel and my entire existence about that, because it dilutes and pollutes the message that I want to give to other people. And so I'm not a professional podcaster. I'm still learning a lot about this. I'm learning a lot about this the way I was learning a lot about the difference between G1, G2, G3, G4. G4 is a dwell cycle. And then the difference, this is for basic CNC machining code, which is yet another language, and the difference between G and M codes. There are a lot of things. Languages are important, man. Ani ismi David. My name is David. Меня зовут David. My nombre es David. My name is David. So I just told that to you in 4 different languages. You can also write it out in CNC machining code with Cartesian coordinates and machine movements ranging between G1, G2, and G3 with I, J, and K cycles depending on what axes you're moving in. I'm not trying to sound overly smart, because I'm not. I'm not overly smart. I just know what I know because I pick up books and I read them. I want to help you guys learn how to do things. So today, I'm going to put it out there that if you have something that you want to hear me talk about with other people, whether they're cartel or not, whether they're former agents or not, whether you want to speak to me about something, no matter who you are, if you're police or whatever, I'm going to call Dominic Gizzo later today. hit me up at tordislung, TORDISLUNG @gmail.com, right? I'm not going to put my phone number out there yet. I'm not comfortable doing it because it opens me up to identity theft, of which I have been victim of before, and I don't feel like jumping through all those hoops again. So you're going to have to email me. Sorry, guys. I know Dominic Izzo puts his number out there. I would love to have you guys call in like I had on the radio station, but that's not a personal number that's attached to me until I got a great big blow-up business like other people. You're going to have to live with the email, dude. Or we can do Zoom or something else. There are other ways to interface with people other than just personal telephone numbers. And I'm figuring that all out. This is something that I'm learning while I'm going along. And I want you to know that if this high school dropout can do it, you with your stellar FBI or CIA or DEA career, or even carrera a la federal, whatever you want to do, if you're working in Mexico, whatever level you're at, you can do your podcast too. Why are you encouraging this? I'm encouraging this because I know that there are a lot of people that are state agents or government assets that do make YouTube videos to sway what people think. And I like hearing from people that are realistic. There was a gentleman that emailed me one time, and I'm going to read a portion of his message, and I've got it here. Gmail, and I got to make sure I'm in the right account because I've got a lot. If I can find it, watch. Now that I want to find it, I won't be able to. That was Scott. That was Scott Babb. I'll have to look it up later. But this guy was a federal agent for a long time, and he served in the Marine Corps. And I'd love to see him do a channel. I love it. I don't mind people being government agents. What I mind is when people are trying to sway people on behalf of the United States government. Why? Why do you care about that, Dave? What's the difference between someone actively working for the United States government and then someone that has worked for the United States government coming out and talking about their experience as such? One is trying to promote an agenda, and the other one is trying to give people information so they can make their own minds up and make their own decisions based on the totality of circumstances and awareness that's going on, social awareness, we'll call it. And I want to do the same thing. My view is very particular. I came up in a very troubled, gang-ridden, white supremacist because I'm not going to be beat down. And to be honest, man, I love the whole Booyah tribe, dude. Booyah tribe and your stuff. I was in San Fernando Valley Juvenile Hall, and there was a guy by the name of Ant Dog from Pacoima Piru Blood. Dude didn't like me very much, and I wasn't grown and filled out, and fucking dude scared me, man, to be honest. But you know, you're in Juvenile Hall and you gotta fight. But I've always liked, there are elements, even the gang elements of LA that I love. The gangster rap, man, I love all that stuff, dude, because I come from it. Listened to it in high school. I got high school friends that got their cocaine directly from people that were... So what's up, guys? So just briefly, I was having some adherence issues with this morning. As you can see what I've got going on. And in life, you're basically going to get paid for the type of problems you can solve. So if you have an issue with something, don't give up. And this, I just had to go into the base settings. I increased the temperature setting to 65 degrees, which is what I like to use instead of the standard 60 degrees. And then also the temperature setting for the filament, I increased to 250 degrees Celsius, as you can see. And as a result, between that and going into the printer settings right here, drag this over here. If you go into here, you can go into these, and then into your printers, you can come over here and you can set the temperature and other issues, filaments. There's your temperature settings right there, and so that's why I increased right there in your filament settings. So when you run into a problem, don't give up and don't be dismayed. That's how you take care of it. Anyways, just a little bit of news also. I got an email back from Ian Bick, and so it looks like I'll be going out there December or the 30th of October to shoot a thing. So anyways, that's what I've got going on. Cheers. I got to get some other stuff done today, but I did want to show you guys that I've resolved. A lot of people say a lot of stuff online, you know, and you got to be able to put the problem to bed, you know, and a lot of people say a lot of things, but you got to complete. You got to put the ball in the net. So anyways, here you go. This should be done. I should be able to have this on the video by tomorrow. So anyways, it stopped because the maximum recording time was reached, and it wanted me to sit there. Look, I have adhesion issues with this thing again. I'll show you what I'm talking about. On this, you're going to start getting stuff like this. I have to pause this. But anyways, I'm doing that. And anyway, sometimes you'll use a glue stick. So I got to stop that. There are different things that'll go on. You know, you got to resolve these things. Adhesion with your filament on the bed itself is going to be an issue. So I'll get that resolved. You can make all kinds of stupid little things. Even this is 3D printed. There was that mask that I gave Tommy Prohaska. I'll deal with this in a little bit. I'm going to put some glue on that bed, and I'm also going to reprogram it so the bed itself, instead of being at 60 degrees Celsius, is going to be at 65 degrees Celsius. And the nozzle right now is at 200, melts the filament at 220 degrees, and usually I like to go 220 degrees Celsius, so I like to go with 245 degrees Celsius. This printer right here, you can get it for just south of $1,000, and plus with the Fusion 360 or Mastercam, whichever way you decide to go, buy the year outright, spend the $500 and get it. They got deals, so it costs different amounts. And what does 1 year of Fusion 360 cost? It likes to do that. What does 1 year of Fusion 360 cost?
According to Autodesk, we have monthly, annual, and 3-year subscription terms to meet your needs as follows. Monthly subscription $70 due monthly. Annual subscription $545 paid annually.
Yeah, so it's still about the same. $500 for a year's worth of programming. And if you do that, you can learn how to build anything that you want. So if you come from a problematic background and you get yourself $500 worth of scratch together, you can buy a year's worth of Fusion 360, which will give you the base course of how to get into stuff like Mastercam, how to get into stuff like SolidWorks, CATIA, which I've also used, all these different programming languages. And you can buy yourself a computer or a printer, and you can start making things, and you can turn that into a 6-figure career. If you're a federal agent watching this, you can be someone like me that's also carried a weapon around and had your neck hurt all day because you got 8 to 12 pounds hanging from your neck all day, and it sucks. You didn't wear comfortable footwear, whatever it is. And you can figure out how to put yourself out there, because if you're a federal agent, you're probably a little bit of an extra or an introvert also. Not huge on the social thing, man. Not a lot of us are. So you can put together a YouTube channel and start doing this the same way that I'm doing it. I want to have a channel that's entertaining to you guys. I want to give you guys something new to look at in the morning, just like Conservative Felon. Just like Sean Ryan. Sean Ryan's videos are pretty long, but I mean, they go really in depth. And someday, here, I'll do this. I'll give you a story. So when I worked in Mexico, one of the things that we would do a lot of the time when we weren't out doing missions that were based off of intelligence and something that I've never heard Ed speak on, is we would have to go in. Obviously, when you catch cartels in Mexico, they go to either a federal or state prison based on whether or not they're charged with federal or state charges. And just like in the United States, you got the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and each state has its own prisons, except like in Louisiana. Louisiana does have Angola, which is up on the Mississippi-Louisiana border. Actually, it's not far from, well, it's a little ways away. It's not super far from where Stale Cracker's kitchen is. I've been to Stale Cracker's kitchen in person too. Unfortunately, it's right next to the police department, but unfortunately he wasn't there. But I did get the deluxe tour from his mom or his grandmother. I forget. Oh man, shame on me for forgetting. It was his I think it was his mother. Super nice lady, man. Showed me the 13-foot alligator he caught in his freezer, man. I got pictures. Maybe I'll stick it in here if I can find it. But I want to help people be able to step out of themselves and create something so where when you get up in the morning, you got something to watch. So getting back to this story, there are prisons set up in Mexico just like there are here, federal and state, except in Louisiana, a lot of them are parish prisons. So St. Bernard Parish, St. Rose Parish, St. John the Baptist Parish. There's so many. Orleans Parish is a famous one. That one's been on TV. And they're pretty crazy prisons, man. I mean, even the St. Bernard Parish, when you're driving out towards Mississippi, getting ready to cross the canal. Well, it's not really a canal. There are levees. But you cross over that. You cross into St. Bernard Parish. And I think that's 9th Ward over there. Getting out that way, it is. That's 9th Ward because I lived in 7th Ward. So when you get over there, you see these prisons and all the barbed wire on it and stuff. Mexico's kind of like that too. They've got these different things, but one of the things that we would do is we would go in and we would conduct inspections on these prisons, and obviously they're all cartel members in there. And they keep the cartels separate in their own separate units for obvious reasons. Because if you they will absolutely kill somebody. They will butcher them like a pig. And it's happened. In Mexico, they've got their own police too, or penitentiary police, Policía Penitenciaria. But we're the ones in charge of going in. We take the guys, and it's an all-day, all-night thing. And you go in there and you toss up everybody's cells, and you'll find everything from handguns to knives to cell phones to drugs, obviously. Prohibited Santa Muerte carvings on furniture and all kinds of just whatever you can think of. But anyways, this one night, we're there all night, and it's getting towards like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're buttoning everything up. And when we do this, it's everybody. It's military, it's federal police, or federal agents, state agents and state police. And then the penitentiary police are kept aside because they might be involved. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of that because I don't want to insult anybody, but we will just say that people that live and work in close proximity to each other for a long point in time, there can be relationships that are developed romantically or otherwise. I mean, who's to say? There, I don't think I ever saw a female penitentiary police person, which is weird because they do definitely have female police in Mexico, but in the males, I don't even ever recall seeing women housed there. It's weird. This is just something that's coming back to me right now. But we got all these things that we confiscated. And you always think that when you pick up a machine gun and you're like, oh, I'm going to die for the Republic. I'm going to die in the service of people. And not that it's going to be glorious because who wants to die? But you think these are things that you internalize when you pick up a weapon. You got a level 4 plates. And so you're ready for business. And you're going to get into that too. But when you're fighting people, and you fight people, you're going to see body parts blown apart. And, really having a channel like this, you have to be careful. I have to be careful on two levels. I have to be careful because of the American government. I have to be careful because of the Mexican government. I have to be careful because even if you did something that was completely legal in line with the law, it may be illegal in another country. And if it's illegal in the other country, it may be illegal here. So there are all these peculiarities that go on when you're talking about people. And then even if it's completely legal in both countries, other people that had something to do with it may not want people to know about it because it may offend or piss off a certain cartel or whatever. And you have to be careful. You better respect your enemies when you're working in Mexico, because you can bet your ass that they are to be respected and feared. It doesn't mean that you walk in fear and live in fear, but if you sit there and intentionally attempt to provoke these people without good reason, and you have to bear in mind they have their own perspective too, so their reason is not going to be yours, it's a delicate subject, man. So when I'm not more open about stuff, usually that's why. And then you have what your partners are going to think about if it's known that they were attached to you some way and you said something, so now they are also attached to what you did because they worked with you. So there are all these things going on when you start talking about this subject. That being said, Ed deciding, this isn't about Ed, this is about openness and being able to corroborate what you said, what you did, where you did it, with whom, to whom, etc. Minimum, if you're going to open a YouTube channel or an Instagram and have 500,000 followers, getting to know your last name isn't too much. My last name, Franke. There. Not hard. But when you're speaking about certain things, yeah, you need to be careful. Of course you do. Because even if it was completely legal, even if you never did anything illegal, people could still run you through the ringer legally just to give you a hard time because they don't like you. Or you might pay dire consequences up to and including your life because one of the people that you were operating against and one of the organizations you were operating against in either country is going to take issue with it and be like, you know what, they got my brother or whatever, go kill that guy. It's fucking real, man. It's real in a way that only people that have operated in the military and combat, or people that are federal agents that have operated against people, and I'm not talking about, it could be counterfeiters. I'm not talking about people that are sitting there monitoring flock traffic cameras. I'm talking about people that are going to send people to your house and tax your ass or your families, or people in Mexico that were going up against that level of violence, man. So anyways, you go and you do these, they call them revisar, inspection. In Spanish it's revisión. You go through and you toss all these people's stuff up, and then at the end of the day, sometimes you have guns, you always got knives. You'll have artifacts, tables, and t-shirts and stuff like that they've made in wood shop or whatever. They've got cartel affiliation on it, whatever. You take all that stuff. So my general tells me, hey, Frank, go put all the puntas, the knives and stuff like that in the bag. So I'm sitting there in the dark with my gloves on, machine gun hanging from my neck, and I'm putting all these knives and shit like that in the bag. And they have leather working tools. Leather working in Mexico is big. This fucking thing sticks me in the... forgive the cussing, but this fucking thing sticks me in the finger, man. And you're around people, they use intravenous drugs and stuff like that. And being from LA, man, the first time I saw someone shooting drugs, I had bought a 1978 Dodge Monaco from a guy by the name of Richard Moriana that had gotten it from a police auction from West Valley PD. I paid $75 for it. And my brother and I, when we were in our teens, 15, 16 years old, we were into selling some stuff, and we sold this guy some stuff. He sat right there and he shot it right in that car in my mom's driveway. So I've been hip to a lot of things for a long time, and when that thing stabbed my finger, it was a leather working utensil. I immediately, my heart sank, dude. Fucked me up, man. It still messes me up because you go in there, you thinking, you know, I'm going to fight. Someday I'll take one to the dome. They're going to cut off my head. They're going to do whatever. And you'll see in a lot of my pictures, I've got like tack vests where I've got a bullet. Sometimes in some of the pictures, I got a whole bunch. That was just a few extra rounds that weren't enough to stick into a magazine. So I kept them right there in my tack vest. But usually somewhere in my tack vest, I've got one round in case I'm captured by the cartel. I run out of bullets. Not captured, but imminently going to be captured. You can put one through your dome. Because they're going to torture you to death and you're going to give up information. I don't care who you are. And you go through training like that in Mexico too. It's not going to be pleasant, but you think, you know, you're going to go out and you're going to die like a man. But when I got pricked by that thing after tossing that stuff into that plastic bag, my heart sunk because I immediately thought, man, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to die of AIDS, dude. Just like, whoa. And then you got to go home and you got to tell your wife, hey, I can't make love to you for the next 6 months because I don't know if I have HIV. Because that's the first stage of AIDS. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome. And, you know, you sit there and you go home and you tell her and you're just like, fuck, man. And then you worry about contaminating your coworkers at work too, because sometimes when you're at work, there's blood involved, obviously. And so, you know, I got stuck in that finger with that leather working utensil, but I didn't know if they'd only used it for leather working or if they had stabbed somebody with it or whatever. You don't know, man. And so even with gloves on, that stuff will go right through your gloves, and it did. It hit me right in my finger and stuff. And so a puncture wound, as you know, is one of the worst type of wounds because it doesn't bleed a lot, so it doesn't wash anything out. So you're sitting there for months torturing yourself thinking, you know, is my wife going to be married to some HIV positive guy? Am I going to dwindle away into nothingness? Am I going to be able to take care of my wife? Am I going to lose my job because now I can't be around people because if I touch them, I'm going to contaminate them? This is just like one little story out of like years, dude. You know, so I got a lot to say. I got a lot that I could say. I got a lot that I will never say. My very first night on patrol, man. You know, everyone that worked for my general was military. Every single one. There's 2 platoons of us. I was the only exception to that rule, but I was in Mexico working for my general, so I was 1,000% for real because there's no way a guy like me would wind up in a place like that if I was not 1,000% for real. But they see if you're for real too, man. You know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in Mexico never even happened. There would be times when we'd go out and get into stuff and get back to base and it wasn't both platoons of us, and we don't even tell the other platoon what was going on just because of the danger involved with all of that. And these many years later, and it's not many years later because it's not like it's ancient history, like something that I almost never talk about because it's just not something I want to talk about. And really, I talk about it now more than anything. Ian Bick quit his day job to go make TikTok. I have a job. I'm quitting my other second job because I want to be able to devote more time to this, and I work a lot. I also want to devote more time to not having this pudge and doing a little bit more with judo than I have, and it's difficult. And I don't need all the toys. You know, and that's real too. And even though I'm almost 60, I'm not going to retire. And even though I'm almost 60, my muscles, I used to be a lot bigger, dude. I used to be big. I used to be put together. My nickname's Bull. Strong like Bull, smart like Street Car. They would make fun of me, man. And I want to be able to do some of that. Not that when I was working out, my main goal was to be able to tear somebody's arm off just with brute force, man. I know it's kind of like you can think what you want of it, but that's the reality of it. I was definitely one of the strongest guys in my gym, man, without a doubt. The best I ever did was 495 twice without a compression shirt on. And I was really put together. And now that I'm almost 60, you know, I'm 56. Now that I'm getting old, my wife and I own a house. We can go live there when we want. I wonder what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I have a daughter that was left in Russia. So, you know, I do these channels for that. And my ex-wife broke my heart when she left my daughter. My ex-wife and I would fight for like 2 weeks at a time. And our fights weren't yelling matches, man. When we would fight, and we did have a couple good fights where it was a yelling match because I wanted my daughter's passport, which she had hidden. But most of the time, our fights were, I'd get home, and she'd be home. She never worked in 10 years of marriage, ever. She never worked. I'd get home, and it would be complete silence for like a week or two at a time. That was how we would fight. It was like a clinic. And so my daughter's in Russia, and you know, someday she's going to see this, and someday I'm going to be dead. When I came back to the United States, I had a pulmonary embolism, dude. And I used to smoke, and when I got back to the United States, it pissed me off. It really pissed me off. It angered me because I tried to stop smoking before a lot of times. And when you're working in Mexico, it's super stressful, so you smoke. In fact, when I was going through training, they would have me smoke while I was running because they didn't like me smoking. A lot of Mexicans, they got a little bit of extra weight around, and I'm talking more than I got, but these guys can run like goats, dude. I don't know what's up with that, but it's true. But they would make me run with a cigarette. And so the only time before, like I told you, I used to work out a lot. I had quit smoking for like 1 year. And then the guy that I lived with was Mr. Atlas over 40. A guy by the name of Dave Gabori. And he tased me when he saw me smoking because he wanted me to go into the Arena Football League because I'm not super tall, just under 5'10". But, I mean, I was put together. I weighed like 220 pounds of solid muscle, and I would have made a pretty decent full safety or strong safety. So that's kind of like what I was shooting for at the time. And I was working out seriously for a few years. And I only quit smoking for 1 year, so most of the time I couldn't quit smoking. But when I got back to the United States, and I had that embolism due to travel, because I'd gone to the Bronx, to New York, got a job in Peekskill, and was living in Brooklyn. Was looking at working for Magellan Aerospace as an engineer, which is a Canadian aerospace company out of Queens. I was traveling a lot, and it had provoked an embolism, and I was coughing up chunks of lung in my hand. Like at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I was sitting there. I'd just gotten a job managing a factory in Chaska, Minnesota, at Continental Engineering and Manufacturing. I got a job as a boss, and they paid me a $10,000 bonus at the end of 2 months if I'd make it, because they were having a hard time. And it was some son of a guy that had started a place, but he doesn't know how to machine stuff really. Or maybe he does. I don't know. I don't want to get any of the legalities of it. In fact, I'm going to bleep that out because I don't want it to be like, oh, he said this about my company. But I did go there, and I got a job as a manager managing that place. And right when I had that happen, because I'd driven all these places, it provoked a blood clot in my lung, and I coughed up chunks the size of a dime of my own lung tissue into my hand. And my wife at the time was still in Mexico because we were going over her visa. And she begged me to go to a doctor, and it pissed me off that drug cartels couldn't kill me, but I was going to kill myself. Or actually, no, I had quit smoking a year before, or a couple years before that, because I'd gone into Camp Gonzo AA meeting with my sister. I had accompanied her. And I was feeling weak, and she took me, and it pissed me off that I had just gotten back to the States. That's what it was. I just gotten back to the States, and I wasn't going to be able to continue living because I felt weak, and I was going to kill myself with cigarettes. And it really pissed me off that the cartel wasn't going to kill me, but I was going to kill myself with cigarettes. So I stopped smoking. And then a couple years later, I had that embolism. That's what happened. And if I hadn't stopped smoking, it would have killed me. So I don't know how much time I got left with life, but I do know that we're all going to die. And I want to make sure that before I do, and my wife watches all my videos, and she's not going to be happy about me talking about all this, but I want my daughter. Because a lot of people get on Patreon and shit like that, and they want to make all this money. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I want you to know what's up with Ed and all the other grifter podcasters. They're not journalists. I put that in the beginning of this. But my channel's not about Ed. My channel is about conveying my story to my daughter, who still lives in Russia to this day. My ex-wife still lives in the United States to this day. I've been deprived of being a father completely. Still pay child support on it too, even though she's like 19 or something. But cannot send my daughter money for an iPhone because of the Russia-United States issue with the star system and sending money back and forth between countries because of the Russia-Ukrainian war. I can pay child support, but I can't send my own daughter money for an iPhone, if you can believe that. So that's why I'm doing this channel, man. I'm doing this channel for posterity. I'm doing this channel because if you're a high school dropout, I want you to learn how to use Fusion 360, a QIDI slicer, and be able to make your own drones. And maybe, who knows, maybe I'll do a thing with printed circuit boards and show you how to wire stuff in series and parallel and resistors and other things, which is a whole college course unto itself, which I've gone to. But I want you to step out of your comfort zone and start to do things and embrace things that you might like to do with the amount of time that you have, with the past that you have, regardless of what side of the law it's on. And if there's anything that you would like to see me cover, because I'm starting to grow a following, I want you to email it to me. We can get on Zoom. We can do whatever you want. Because I don't buy half the stuff these guys are putting out, man. What do you mean? I'm not being critical of Sean Ryan, man. I love Sean Ryan's show. I watch it all the time. But I am very curious how the United States government will keep so many people out of the military, but the CIA will allow someone that admits to doing cocaine in Colombia to continue to do contract missions for the CIA. That is just amazing to me. Taylor Kavanaugh, I emailed you the other day on your own website. I don't expect to hear back from you. But I'd love to do a podcast with you too, man. I would love to. Not because I'm looking for money. In fact, I just quit a job to make less money, and I don't know where this channel will go. Maybe it'll blow up. Maybe it won't. Nobody knows. But what I do know is that if you continue doing the same thing the same way and expecting different results, you're an idiot. So I'm going to do something different. I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm going to upload this. I'm going to take out the guy's name for or what I said about his company, because I don't want to get sued by that guy in particular. And I'm just going to upload this, and I hope you like it, man. Hey, thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you dig the product that I put out, and if there's something in particular that you want to see, whether you're a convict in California or whether you're a federal agent in the United States, whether you're ex-military or whether you're someone in Mexico that works for a cartel or works for the Mexican government, and whether it's going to be in English o si sea en español, no me importa. A тоже по-русски, тоже. Я могу говорить по-русски. Так, если вы хотите говорить по-русски, мы можем. Да? So anything that you guys want to speak, I'll speak it with you in English, Spanish, or Russian, whatever, man. Let's have a talk. And I'm digging doing this channel because I don't get out much. The only thing I really do is work, read, work out, and that's about it, man. Spend some time with my wife. So, hey, have a wonderful day. God loves you. So do I. That was one of the biggest things I figured out in Mexico. I spent my whole life wanting to either become a hitman for the club, for the Marine Corps, outlaw motorcycle clubs, the American government, the Mexican government. And the thing that I learned at the end of all of that is I cannot remove the humanity of other people without dehumanizing myself. I cannot dehumanize another human being without simultaneously removing my value at the same time. And so no matter who it is in this world that you don't like, if you take away their value as a human, you're doing the same thing to yourself, man. Mexico is one of the greatest teachers I ever had in my entire life. Enough out of me.